Hello and welcome back to Burn Bright. This is Krista and I'm here to talk about Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This book was published December 11th, 2012 by Razor Bill. In a land where magic has been forgotten, but peace has reigned for centuries, a deadly unrest is simmering. 3 kingdoms grapple for power, brutally transforming their subjects' lives in the process. Amidst betrayals, bargains, and battles, 4 young people find their fates forever intertwined. Cleo, a princess raised in luxury, must embark on a rough and treacherous journey into enemy territory in search of a magic long thought extinct. Jonas, enraged at injustice, a rebel lashes out against the forces of oppression that have kept his country impoverished and finds himself the leader of a people's revolution centuries in the making. Lucia, a girl adopted at birth into a royal family, discovers the truth about her past and the supernatural legacy she is destined to wield. Magnus, bred for aggression and trained to conquer, a firstborn son begins to realize that the heart can be more lethal than the sword. The only outcome that's certain is that the kingdoms will fall. Who will emerge triumphant when all they know has collapsed? In this very high fantasy novel, we get the perspective of several different characters, ranging in different positions throughout the kingdom. So we get to see from the very lowest point of the worker bees all the way up to the kingdom, to the king, and what's happening in the castle. The world building is very intricate here because we get to see from several different perspectives of what the people are encountering throughout this dividing point in their lives. I really felt that even though the magic does play a part in the story, it really took a backseat to what was really happening with the characters and the different kingdoms. The story was more emotionally driven than what I was expecting, which was politics. I personally felt that the more engaging story came from the heart. It was the emotionally driven stories behind the people, the romance aspect, and there was a very strong family dynamics as well, more so with brother and sister relationships than father or mother with their with their children. It's not a story that I would say was incredibly fast-paced, though it does have an even pacing throughout the whole novel. We get the with the combination of several different characters and several different levels of responsibilities that they hold throughout the kingdoms. It did take me a while to get used to the novel, the setting, the world building, and which characters represented which kingdoms and which places that they had to hold. So it did take a little bit to finally get into this story. What compelled me to keep reading were the emotional ties that they had with each other, the romantic aspects. It was a very complicated world building that takes a lot that went into it. So it did take a while to try to develop an understanding of what was happening in the story. There's a lot of different characters coming into play, and I felt that what the author did get right was that she had the emotional attachment. She gets the readers emotionally attached to different characters in different ways, so you can see where they're all coming from and care about their plight and what they are attempting to do. There are some shocking moments in the story, some things you just don't quite understand until the very end. Of course, what comes with fights and battles, you have a lot of death. I wouldn't say that it was a very fast-paced or intense thriller kind of a story. It does take a slower pace to it. It's more character-driven. The majority of the story is actually told with dialogues between the different characters to push the plot forward and to get to know each of the different kingdoms by expressing their feelings through the dialogue. So a lot of the story, rather than narrative, is told through the conversations of the characters with each other and the events and the actions that are taking place within those scenes as well. The emotions of the characters bring in a lot of tension for the story that you become gripped with it and interested and want to know what exactly is going to happen with that character. There's a lot of secrets There's revenge, there's fighting, there's battles, the big wow moments, death moments that really build up the pace to other high fantasy novels. It does take a little bit to get into, to learn the world building and the different characters, especially since they're told from different perspectives, to learn their voices and what exactly that they're going through. But once you get into this story, I think that you'll really get hooked. And especially with this ending, it's very action, fast-paced ending with a lot of things happening and finally things coming together to build the reader up into the next book. And it leads up into a great opening for the next book, which I am looking forward to picking up. This was a very interesting read. Great high fantasy story. I don't really have a lot of experience in high fantasy like this, but with the success of Game of Thrones and so on, this is a good young adult opening into that kind of field of reading. And so this one was enjoyable. Pick it up if you like high fantasy reads. And thanks for stopping by Burn Bright today. Bye.